Today, we're going to teach you how to up your first impression game,
including how to bounce back after a bad one.
I'm Holly, your career co-pilot and professional pal for the day.
And I'm Priya. We've got your back as you take on the wild ride of job hunting.
Welcome to Job Search Stories.
Let's kick things off by talking about the best way to evaluate whether a company is right for you. In other words, let's talk about your first impression of them. Okay, Holly, let's get into it. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's go. What would you say is the most important thing to know about evaluating a potential employer?
You want to make sure that it's a good fit. You spend so much of your time there, so it's important that you're comfortable and it's aligned with your goals. So some things could be company culture, growth and learning opportunities, leadership and management style, work-life balance, stability, and even future outlook.
Yeah, I think all of those things are really important, right? You want to make sure that the company represents the things that you're looking for.
That's going to impact how long you stay with that company.
So do you have any solid tips then for how someone can tell if a company is going to be a good fit for them?
It's all about doing your homework. So first of all, you need to figure out what is most important to you. What are your values? And once you figure that out, then you can start doing some research on the companies. Find out as much as you can and see, okay, do their values align with mine? Make sure that you are reading company reviews. So shout out to Indeed company pages and Glassdoor reviews, but getting that overall understanding of the company and how they operate, it gives you a little bit of a glimpse of how it is to be there. Also, look beyond just those review pages. Look for them on social media. Have they been in the news? Are there any red flags that are popping up and being like, oh, okay, maybe I don't want to work here?
I love that because it's not just what they're putting out there, but what other people are saying about them. And that's an important distinction, right? You need to know both sides of the story. You have to do your homework.
Yep.
Whether you're looking for a job, preparing for an interview, once you get hired, it never stops, does it,
It never
Holly?
stops, yeah.
No.
So got to do your research.
Okay, Holly, I'm going to shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of the coffee cup test?
It's my understanding that in the interview, an interviewer will ask you if you want a cup of coffee, and then they're watching to see what you do with the cup after the interview. So they're checking to see, do you leave it on the table? Do you hand it back to them? Do you go put it away? And that's supposed to determine whether or not they should hire you.
It's a little secret test.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit silly. I mean, but in general, I want to be respectful and considerate and be on my best behavior when I'm in an interview or even just at work. But I don't think what you do with the coffee cup is going to determine whether or not you're a good employee or a bad employee.
I do want to say, though, that I do think a job seeker, they should be authentic to who they are, but they should really be on their best behavior throughout the entire job seeking process, throughout their interview process. Back in the day for tech companies, when they used to watch like how you treated the person who picked you up in the car, how you treated the person who got you your coffee.
And that's
how
important.
Yes.
It is. Like they're getting a glimpse into how you are going to operate in the workplace.
Yes.
So I think those things are important, but do I think that this coffee cup test is going to be the thing? Not really. But I agree with like your general behavior and your attitude and your respect towards everyone that you meet during the interview is important.
I want to try something else now. I'm going to show you an anonymized Glassdoor review. What questions would you ask in the interview to address any concerns if everything else about the company looks great to you? Okay? So the name of this review is No Growth, and it's for a part-time associate banker. The pros are you learn the basics for your everyday needs as it relates to banking. I think you get a decent amount of PTO. The cons are no room for growth, you're stuck within a position, and you feel as though you have to follow the hierarchy of the bank. For example, it's hard to move to another department. They should provide cross-training in your choice of departments. This position is for a younger person who is figuring out their career goals or needs a year of work experience. So what do you think about that, Holly?
So I would definitely ask about learning opportunities, possibility of moving around or like cross-training and things of that sort. But also, it sounds like there are some good things about this position. So having good PTO is a big deal. And it sounds like they're also training you up to do well at this job. So I think that there's some good things and some things to ask about as well. And again, this is a review. We're getting one person's perspective. So we want to take that with a grain of salt as well.
Absolutely. And I think it goes back to what you talked about before, right? Establishing your values and how they align with a company. So if you want a company where you can just stay put in your position for a little while and have a good amount of PTO, then this might be the right fit for you. But if you're interested in continuing to grow within a company, maybe not so much.
Well, and these are important questions to ask during the interview.
Blink, and they've already sized you up. Search for Indeed on YouTube and make your first impression count. So let's say you've done the research and found a company you love and a position that you think would be a great fit. Let's talk about that moment when you enter an interview room. How do you impress them? Holly, there's a lot of first impression moments in the hiring process, but I want to focus on the interview. There's a statistic we found that kind of blew my mind. Christian, what was it again?
A study says that the first impressions form in 1/10 of a second.
Let's not focus on 1/10 of a second. We're going to give ourselves more time than that. How about 30 seconds? What actually moves the needle in those first few moments?
Well, if you're interviewing in person, then one of the things that you can do is pretty easy is to show up a little bit early. So about 5 minutes early, make sure you're in the right spot. So that by itself already sets a good impression. And then dress the part. So hopefully you've done your research, you know what the vibe is at the company, so that way you can dress the part. And that's going to help you feel comfortable, feel like you already fit in. So you're already showing that you've done your research in that as well, and you've prepared for this. And then another thing, I know we talk about it a lot, but that question, it's usually one of the very first questions they ask, the tell me about yourself question. This is such a great way for you to explain who you are as a professional and how your skills and your experience line up with that company and that particular position.
Have that elevator pitch ready.
Absolutely.
Know what you're going to say.
Have it practiced.
Speaking of, we did get a comment about that from a previous episode we did. A viewer said, job interviews make me nervous. I feel uncomfortable even with the simple question, tell me about yourself. I feel like I know what to say until I'm suddenly asked it, and then I'm floundering. And so preparation, right?
Right. And sometimes it really can be hard to talk about yourself so much. And so this is a really good one to make sure that you have practiced it, you've rehearsed it, you know exactly what you want to say.
Okay, Holly, I have a tough question for you.
All right.
What's one moment during an interview process that might seem insignificant, but actually reveals a lot about the candidate?
I think there can be a few of those moments. So if they throw you a curveball question, they want to see how do you respond to it? How do you handle that stress? Are you asking them questions? Because I think that's a really big key. If you come to the end of the interview and they're asking you, what questions do you have for us? And you're like, nah, I'm good. Kind of shows that you don't really care. And that might not be the case, but always ask questions. Always have a list of questions that you can dip into and ask those questions. Show that you care. Show that you're invested and that you see yourself there.
Exactly. It all comes back to that preparation. I similarly, if I'm interviewing someone and they don't have any questions, that always kind of makes me think twice. Let's say I'm a bit of an overachiever, because you know I am, Holly. From a hiring manager's point of view, what's the difference between a good interview and a great interview? I want to make a great impression.
With a great interview, the interviewer or the hiring manager is able to walk away knowing like, yep, this person can do the job. They have the skills. They can absolutely fit in here and start contributing.
But that feeling is likely based on the way the job seeker showed up, right?
Absolutely. And that's one of the things whenever I'm working with job seekers is showing your excitement for the position. So if you are the manager here, maybe you've been in this position for a long time, maybe a little bit worn down, you've seen these things before, but a new person coming in is bringing that new hire energy. They're curious, they're excited, they want to come in and solve problems, and they're bringing in a new perspective.
Speaking of being excited, it's even harder to show that excitement virtually, right? So now let's introduce a new wrinkle to the situation.
An Indeed survey found 82% of employers use virtual interviews. It's a good reminder to be prepared.
82%? That's a lot, don't you think, Holly?
It is, yeah.
Okay, with that being said, can you give us some tips on how to make a good first impression during a virtual interview?
So first of all, you want to make sure that you have prepared all of your technology. If it's a different type of interview platform, test it ahead of time. Make sure everything works. Check that tech. Always, again, practice, rehearse. And then another thing, dress the part. Even though you're not showing up in person, dress the part.
I don't get to wear my lucky sweatpants. Do I need to rock my professional pants or what?
I would wear the full professional attire, and then once you have a wonderfully successful interview, then go put on your lucky sweats.
Okay, so I have to wait till after. Okay, everyone remembers that BBC interview before COVID where the man was doing the interview and the kid was in the room in the background. But I think it begs a larger question, right? Is it okay if there's distractions in the background?
I would try to limit distractions as much as possible, but things happen, as we saw in that interview. If your kid busts in or something happens with one of your pets or something, try to limit that if you can, but if it does, again, we're human, life happens, get it situated, and then move on.
Okay. I like that. That's our show for today. Thank you so much for watching Job Search Stories. If you're looking for more job search advice, be sure to subscribe to Indeed's YouTube channel. Drop a question or topic you'd like us to cover, or share your own job search stories and advice in the comments.
Bye.
Bye.
Sorry.
No, you go. Let's get into it. And I don't know the question. Let's start again.
Okay, I don't know the answer.
Okay.